Well, Shirley Jones, our next guest, was a virtual unknown when Richard Rodgers and Oscar Hammerstein propelled her to stardom in their 1955 musical Oklahoma. She then went on to star in countless films and won an Academy Award. And in the 1970s, she was introduced to a whole new generation on TV as the matriarch of the Partridge Family.
Shirley's here to perform in the UK for the first time in the West End. Welcome to the programme this morning. Thanks so much for coming in. Lots of stuff to talk about, but I think we can have a little look down memory lane at some of your earlier performances.
Oh, good.
Let's have a look first.
Good.
They don't make them like that anymore, do they?
No, they don't.
Just 18 years old as Laurie there. Tell us how you were, because you were virtually unknown before that. So how were you picked? Tell us about that moment when you were picked.
That's a long story, which I tell in my show, by the way. But
we have to buy a ticket?
Yes, you have to buy a ticket. But it's a remarkable one, yeah. I was on my way to college. I was always able to sing, you know, and it was a gift. I was singing when I was 6 years old, and it was a gift. But I wanted to become a veterinarian. I'm a big animal nut, so I was on my way to college to become a veterinarian and just graduated high school. But I'd studied at the Pittsburgh Playhouse. I'm from a little town near Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And during the summers, I studied acting and so forth, and singing and so forth. But I was going to go to college to become a vet. And stopped off in New York City with my parents. I knew a pianist there. And he said, "Come on, Shirley, they're having open auditions for Rodgers and Hammerstein's casting director today." Their shows ran so long on Broadway that they had to keep replacing chorus people all the time. He said, "Come on, and, you know, just try it out." I'd never been to a professional audition of any kind. I mean, I wasn't, you know, I was very naive and very young. But I went. He talked me into it, and I went. Well, to make a long story short, I sang for the casting director. He, in turn, said, "Would you wait a few moments? I'm going to call Richard Rodgers to come and hear you." Now, I didn't even know who Richard Rodgers was, you understand. Sang for him. He said, "Could you wait 20 minutes? I'm going to call Oscar Hammerstein at home, have him come and hear you." My pianist had to leave because he had an airplane to catch. Oscar arrived. He said, "You know the score of Oklahoma?" And I said, "Well, I think I know the music, but I don't know the words." And, of course, I'm talking to the lyricist, you understand. And he said, "Well, I have the score right here." I said, "But my pianist isn't here." He said, "Well, we have a full City Center Symphony across the street." They took me across the street. I'd never heard a symphony, seen a symphony, let alone sing with one. And I held the score in front of my face and sang, "Oklahoma, oh, what a beautiful morning, and people will say we're in love." And never got to college.
And that was it? And so you were signed up kind of on the spot?
Well, they signed me to a personal contract, Rodgers and Hammerstein. I was the one and only first and last person ever under contract to Rodgers and Hammerstein.
And I'm just thinking, if that was now, all those auditions would be being filmed for some sort of reality show.
I know, that's exactly what we were talking about earlier. Exactly, yeah. Because that's what it sounds like. I mean, it was one of those stories that, you know, I'm not sure could happen today, actually. You know,
yeah.
So.
And from there, I mean, you were launched in this amazing movie career on stage as well. And I've just got this list down here, the men you starred opposite. Can you give me a one-word description of each one of them in turn?
Oh, but there's a lot.
Well, go through these ones. Marlon Brando.
Marlon Brando. Well, it was a wonderful film that we did. You know, it was Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, you know, the film was called Bedtime Story then, but they remade it into Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, which became a big hit, too. And fortunately, I got Brando at a very good time because he wanted to do a comedy. And he wasn't, you know, they didn't give him comedies to do very often. So he was in a very happy mood, thank heaven. And we had a good time. I mean, he was fun. And you know, the film was fun to make with him, and the fact that he was doing comedy was great.
James Stewart? What was he like?
I loved Jimmy Stewart. He was wonderful. He just was the sweetest man. We had a good time. That was the Cheyenne Social Club with Henry Fonda. A great movie, fun movie.
All these names, Burt Lancaster?
Oh, well, you know, he's the one that got me the role in Elmer Gantry. If it hadn't been for him, I wouldn't have been cast.
And the role for which you won
the Academy
an
Award,
Oscar.
yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
And just describe that moment.
Well, That was very exciting. You know, I was the underdog. I was not supposed to win.
Who were you up against?
Janet Leigh had won all the other awards for Psycho. You know, the Drama Desk Award, all of that. And so I was really the underdog. I mean, I didn't expect to win at all. So it was a giant surprise. Can
I ask you, just, do you ever reflect? I mean, given those names we talked about, Brando, James Stewart, Glenn Ford, Burt Lancaster, Henry Fonda, Jimmy Cagney. How do you look at the big movie stars of today, the male lead actors, by way of comparison? Do you ever think about that in your head? What they have and what those
there are
guys have?
some that I think are wonderful. Some I don't think have a talent at all, but some I think are wonderful. But you know, the interesting thing, in my show, which you'll see, I show 8 minutes of film clips of all these people, you know, and I stand backstage before I go on. I watch some of the clips, and I get very sad because they're all gone. You know, these people are all gone, and they were giants. I mean, they were giants. You know, as I've said, working with these people, everybody worked for one purpose, for the sake of the film. We had wonderful directors, wonderful producers and writers, and everybody worked as a team. I'm not sure they do that anymore. You know, I'm just not sure they do that anymore.
We need to talk about your concerts, obviously, but just quickly, tell us what it was like backstage on the Partridge Family, behind the scenes. You got any insights for us?
We had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun. You know, David Cassidy's my stepson, and of course, he came out of that as, you know, the top rock star, you know, in the country for a long time. And we had fun. It was a great time for me. I was told never to do a television series because at that time, if you were a movie actor, you know, it was a big step down to do television. But I said, I want to stay home and raise my kids, because they said, if you do a television series and become the character, you'll be that character for the rest of your life. And they were right.
We're nearly done, but the concerts are coming up shortly. Tell us about those.
Yes. My son Patrick is in the show with me. Right. Patrick's done 7 Broadway shows, and we work together. And it's you know, it's all this from all the movies I've done. Patrick has his own part of the show where his part talks about the family. It's David and Sean and Jack, his father, and me, and it's all about the family. So it's kind of an introduction to me, and then we sing a little bit together. But I do things from all the films, you know.
There'll be people who are absolutely dying to see you. Thank you so much for coming this morning.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
And if you are dying to see Shirley Jones, you can. She's in concert at the Arts Centre in London from Monday evening.